Maya Chen was never the type to take shortcuts. Growing up with a police officer father meant safety rules were drilled into her head from an early age. Always stick to well-lit streets, he'd say. Never walk alone at night if you can help it. And most importantly, trust your gut. At 28, Maya had built her life around these practical rules. Her career as a photojournalist took her to sometimes dangerous places, but she always planned ahead, always stayed aware of her surroundings. Her friends often joked that she was the most careful person they knew, but tonight everything was going wrong. First, an unexpected photo assignment had kept her at the newspaper office 2 hours longer than planned. Then the sky had opened up, without warning, drenching the city streets in a sudden autumn downpour. Her umbrella, of course, was sitting uselessly by her apartment door where she'd left it that morning, and now her phone battery had died, leaving her unable to call her sister Lisa to explain why she was going to be so terribly late for her birthday dinner. Lisa's voice echoed in Maya's mind as she hurried down the rain-slicked sidewalk. "You never miss important family stuff for work," her sister had said just last week, a hint of accusation in her tone. "At least you didn't used to." Maya pushed her wet hair from her face and checked her watch. Already 45 minutes late. Lisa and their parents would be waiting at the restaurant, probably checking their phones every few minutes, wondering where she was. That's when Maya noticed the narrow gap between buildings, the alley connecting 7th and 8th Avenue. She'd passed it hundreds of times but never considered taking it. Going around the long way had always seemed worth the extra time. Not tonight. The alley would cut 15 minutes off her walk. 15 minutes meant the difference between, "Sorry, I'm late and I completely missed your birthday dinner." Maya paused at the alley entrance, squinting into the shadows. It wasn't completely dark. A few security lights cast pools of yellow light at intervals, but it wasn't exactly inviting either. Water streamed from fire escapes overhead, creating curtains of rain that caught the dim light. The brick walls were covered with layers of faded graffiti, weather-worn posters for bands that had played shows years ago. She clutched her camera bag closer to her chest. The Nikon inside represented 3 years of saving, and the memory cards held today's work. Irreplaceable photos of the mayor's press conference about the new city development project. Just this once, Maya whispered to herself, stepping into the alley. The sounds of the main street, car horns, voices, music from shop doorways, faded almost immediately. The alley had its own soundscape, water dripping from pipes, the distant hum of air conditioning units, the occasional scurry of what she hoped were just rats. Maya walked quickly, her footsteps echoing against the narrow walls. Halfway through, she noticed the smell, something chemical underneath the usual city garbage scent. Almost like hospital disinfectant. Strange. That's when she heard it. Footsteps, behind her moving at the same pace as hers, trying to match her rhythm. Maya's heart jumped into her throat. She'd been so careful to watch ahead that she hadn't thought to look behind. Basic self-defense training kicked in. Don't run. It triggers a chase instinct. Don't freeze completely. Keep moving. Find people, light, safety. She fumbled in her bag for her pepper spray, mind racing through options. The exit to 8th Avenue was still 100 yards ahead. Too far. The footsteps grew closer. Maya took a deep breath, ready to turn and confront whoever was following her when she felt it. A presence right behind her, close enough that she could feel the displacement of air. Keep walking. The voice was right by her ear, barely above. A whisper, male, older with a slight rasp, not threatening but urgent. Don't look back, just keep walking. Something in the tone made her obey, though every instinct screamed to run or fight. Maya kept her pace steady, right hand still gripping the pepper spray in her bag. There's something wrong with this place, the voice continued, now beside her rather than behind. Maya allowed herself a quick sideways glance. The stranger was an older man, maybe in his 60s, with deep creases around his eyes and gray hair pulled back in a short ponytail. His clothes were worn but clean, jeans, work boots, a navy blue jacket that had seen better days. He didn't look at her directly, his eyes constantly scanning the alley ahead and behind. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, seeming to sense her assessment. But there are people who might. Been watching this alley for weeks now, something's not right. Maya found her voice. Who are you? Name's Garrett. Used to be a detective before I retired. Still can't turn off the instincts. He kept pace beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. Noticed patterns. People go in certain doorways here, come out different. Despite her fear, Maya's journalist brain perked up. Different how? Garrett's eyes narrowed. Hard to explain. Same faces, same clothes, but something off. Like they're not quite themselves anymore. He gestured subtly to the right. That door there, the one with the strange symbol carved in the frame. See it? Maya looked where he pointed. Between two dumpsters sat a rusted metal door she hadn't noticed before. It looked ancient, the paint peeling to reveal layers underneath. But the symbol etched into the frame looked freshly carved, a circle with 3 lines intersecting in the middle. I've seen 7 people go through that door this week alone, Garrett continued. The ones who come out, they move wrong, talk wrong, like they're wearing their own bodies as costumes. Maya's fear was giving way to curiosity, a transition her editor often warned her about. That sounds crazy. I know. Garrett nodded. That's why I've been documenting everything. Times, dates, descriptions. Something's happening and nobody's paying attention. They were approaching the end of the alley now, the lights of 8th Avenue visible ahead. Relief flooded through Maya, but she found herself slowing her pace, reluctant to end the conversation despite her initial fear. Why tell me this? Why follow me? Garrett's expression changed slightly. Your camera bag. You're a photographer? Photojournalist. For the City Tribune. A hint of something, hope maybe, flickered across his weathered face. Been trying to get someone to listen for weeks. Police think I'm just a washed-up old cop with too much time on his hands. Newspaper wouldn't even let me past the front desk. The rain had lightened to a drizzle as they reached the alley's end. Maya turned to face Garrett fully for the first time, studying him. He didn't have the unfocused look of someone lost in delusions. His eyes were clear, alert, intelligent. Look, he said, reaching slowly into his pocket and pulling out a small notebook. My observations, addresses, times. You don't have to believe me right now. Just take my number. If you're as smart as you look, you'll call. People need to know what's happening here. Before Maya could respond, movement at the other end of the alley caught her attention. 3 figures had entered from the 7th Avenue side, men in identical black coats despite the warm evening. They moved with unnatural synchronization, and even from this distance Maya could feel their eyes lock onto her camera bag with unsettling intensity. Garrett noticed too. His hand closed around Maya's wrist, not roughly but with urgency. Those are some of them, he whispered. We need to go. Now. He pulled her onto the busy sidewalk of 8th Avenue, the sudden noise and light a shock after the alley's isolation. They walked quickly for 2 blocks before Garrett seemed satisfied they weren't being followed. Meet me tomorrow, he said, pressing his notebook into her hand. Noon, coffee shop on the corner of Pine and 10th. Bring your camera. He started to walk away, then turned back. And Ms. Chen, Maya Chen, Ms. Chen, tell someone where you're going, just in case. Then he was gone, disappearing into the evening crowd with the practiced ease of someone used to not being noticed. Maya stood frozen on the sidewalk, clutching the small notebook. Her sister's birthday dinner temporarily forgotten. The rational part of her brain said Garrett was just a confused old man, possibly in need of help himself. But another part, the part that had won her the regional award for investigative photojournalism last year, whispered that the best stories often started exactly like this, with something that didn't quite make sense, and someone nobody wanted to listen to. She tucked the notebook into her camera bag and hailed a taxi to the restaurant, already knowing that tomorrow at noon she would be at that coffee shop. Some rules were meant to be broken, even her own. Maya woke up early the next morning with Garrett's notebook on her nightstand. She'd spent half the night reading through his meticulous notes, flipping pages filled with dates, times, and detailed descriptions of people entering and exiting that rusted door. His handwriting was surprisingly neat, small, precise letters that revealed his methodical nature. She'd called in sick to work, something she almost never did, claiming a stomach bug. Her editor, Tom, hadn't questioned it. "You've banked enough overtime this month to take a week off," he'd said. "Get some rest." But rest was the last thing on Maya's mind as she showered and dressed. She chose practical clothes, jeans, a dark blue t-shirt, and her worn leather jacket with the many pockets, perfect for extra memory cards and batteries. Her camera equipment was already packed and ready. At 11:30, she texted her sister, "Meeting a source for a potential story. Coffee shop at Pine and 10th. If you don't hear from me by 2 p.m., call Tom at the paper." Lisa replied almost immediately with a string of question marks, but Maya didn't elaborate. Better to have someone know where she was just in case. The coffee shop was busy when she arrived. A good thing, she decided. Public places with witnesses felt safer for meeting a stranger, even one who had possibly saved her from trouble the night before. Maya ordered a large black coffee and found a table near the back with a clear view of both the entrance and the emergency exit. Old habits. Garrett arrived precisely at noon, looking much the same as yesterday except drier. He scanned the room before approaching, his eyes noting every detail with professional efficiency. When he spotted Maya, a flicker of relief crossed his face. "Wasn't sure you'd come," he said, sliding into the chair across from her. "I almost didn't," Maya admitted. She pushed his notebook across the table. "But your notes are thorough." Garrett nodded, ordering only hot water with lemon when the server stopped by. 27 years with the police department teaches you how to document things properly. "I checked you out," Maya said. "Garrett Wilson, detective first grade, retired 4 years ago after solving the Riverside Strangler case. Quite the career." He shrugged, but she caught the hint of pride in his eyes. "Just doing the job." "So why were you in that alley last night?" "Why follow me?" Garrett's weathered hands wrapped around his mug. "I live 3 blocks from there. Started noticing things about 2 months ago. Strange patterns of people. That symbol appearing overnight on the door." He leaned forward. "And the missing persons reports." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Missing persons?" 3 in the last month, all from this neighborhood. People with no reason to disappear. Stable jobs, families, routines. He pulled out a folded newspaper clipping from his pocket. Hank Russo, 42, accountant. Vanished after telling his wife he was going for a walk. Diane Velasquez, 35, kindergarten teacher, never came home from grocery shopping. And Peter Kim, 27, nurse at City Memorial, disappeared between the hospital and his apartment. Maya studied the 3 faces in the small newspaper photos. Ordinary people with ordinary lives. "And you think they went through that door?" "I know they did." Garrett's voice dropped lower. "I saw Russo and Kim enter. Neither came out while I was watching. And here's the strange part. 3 days after Russo disappeared, I saw someone who looked exactly like him exit that door. Same face, same clothes, but wrong somehow." "Wrong how?" Garrett struggled to find the words. Like someone who'd never been human before trying to act like one. He shook his head. His movements were too perfect, too measured, and his eyes... He shuddered slightly. No emotion. None. Maya thought about the 3 men in black coats from the previous night. How they'd moved with that strange synchronicity. A chill ran down her spine despite the warm coffee shop. "Did you report this to your old colleagues?" "Of course." Bitterness crept into his voice. "They humored me because of my reputation. Sent a patrol car to check the building. Found nothing. Unusual. Just an empty storage room for the Chinese restaurant next door. Said the door was for deliveries. But you don't believe that." "I know what I saw." Garrett's eyes held hers steadily. "Something's happening in there. Something that doesn't show itself to casual observers. And it's not just me. Other people in the neighborhood have noticed. Strange things too. Mrs. Patel at the corner store says some of her regular customers have started acting weird, forgetting long-standing habits, not recognizing people they've known for years." Maya took a long sip of her coffee, Journalist instincts. Fully engaged now. So what's your theory? Don't have one yet, that's why I need help. Garrett nodded toward her camera bag. I need evidence no one can dismiss. Photos, video, something that proves I'm not just a crazy old ex-cop seeing things. Maya considered her options. The rational part of her brain listed all the reasons to walk away. Missed work, potential danger, the likelihood that Garrett was simply connecting unrelated events. But her intuition, the same instinct that had led her to Pulitzer-nominated photos in the past, whispered that this was important. What's your plan? She asked finally. Relief washed over Garrett's face. Simple surveillance first. I've been watching alone, but it's hard to document and observe at the same time. With two of us, we can gather better evidence. For the next hour, they developed a strategy. They would watch the alley from two different positions, Garrett at the 7th Avenue entrance, Maya near 8th, both with clear views of the mysterious door. Maya would bring her long-range lens to photograph anyone entering or exiting. They'd communicate via text message, noting times and descriptions. What if we see something definitive? Maya asked as they prepared to leave. What's our next step? Garrett hesitated. If we get solid evidence, we take it to Detective Gloria Chen at the 18th Precinct. She's one of the few who didn't dismiss me entirely. Said she needed more than my word to open an investigation. No relation to me, in case you're wondering, Maya added with a small smile. Figured that, Garrett replied. There's one more thing you should know. His expression grew more serious. Yesterday wasn't the first time I've seen you near that alley. Maya felt a cold knot form in her stomach. What? 3 days ago. You walked past the 7th Avenue entrance talking on your phone. One of them, a woman in a gray suit, one of the wrong ones, she noticed you, stopped and watched you for almost 2 minutes. That's why I followed you yesterday. I was afraid they had marked you somehow. The coffee suddenly felt acidic in Maya's stomach. Why would they be interested in me? Don't know, but it can't be coincidence that those three showed up just as we were leaving the alley. They agreed to meet at 6 p.m., when the alley would still have some natural light, but the evening foot traffic would provide them cover. As they left the coffee shop, Garrett put a hand on Maya's arm. I know how this sounds, he said quietly. If you want to back out, I understand. Maya thought about the three identical men, the strange symbol on the door, the missing persons whose faces seemed to burn in her memory now. I'm in, she said, but I'm bringing extra batteries in my good zoom lens. By 5:45, Maya was in position, sitting on a bench across from the 8th Avenue entrance to the alley. Her camera rested in her lap, the long telephoto lens hidden inside her open jacket. She'd told Lisa she was working on a surveillance piece for the paper, technically not a lie, and promised to text every hour. Garrett confirmed his position with a brief text. In place. Coffee cart, blue cap. Maya spotted him, impressed by how thoroughly unremarkable he looked. Just another retiree enjoying the early evening, cup in hand, completely forgettable. For the first hour, the alley traffic was mundane. Delivery people, using it as a shortcut. A couple of teenagers sneaking cigarettes. A harried-looking office worker walking her small dog. At 7:12 p.m., Garrett's text lit up her phone. Woman, red coat, watch door. Maya's finger hovered over her camera's shutter button as a slender woman in a bright red coat paused near the mysterious door. The woman looked around, a quick bird-like movement that seemed oddly mechanical, before pressing her palm against the strange symbol carved into the frame. Maya's camera clicked rapidly, capturing the sequence as the door swung open, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. The woman stepped inside and the door closed behind her. Got it, Maya texted. Door opened without key. 15 minutes later, a young man in hospital scrubs approached the same door. Again, Maya documented the same process. Palm to symbol, door opening, figure disappearing inside. By 9 p.m., they had photographed 5 people entering and 2 exiting. Those who exited moved with the same unsettling precision Maya had noticed in the 3 men from the previous night. Coming to you. Garrett texted at 9:22. Need to compare notes. Maya watched him approach, his casual stride masking his alertness. He sat beside her on the bench, not looking at her but facing forward as if they were strangers sharing a public space. The two who came out, he said quietly. Did you notice their eyes? Maya nodded, scrolling through her camera's display to find the clearest shots. There's something off about the reflection. Almost like animals in headlights. Garrett finished. That retro reflection isn't normal in humans. A chill ran through Maya that had nothing to do with the evening air. What are we dealing with here, Garrett? Before he could answer, a young woman approached the alley entrance, moving with purpose. Something about her seemed familiar to Maya. The way she held herself, perhaps, or the determined set of her shoulders. The woman glanced in their direction, and for a brief moment the streetlight caught her eyes, reflecting back the same unnatural glow they'd been discussing. Maya raised her camera instinctively, capturing the woman's face just as she turned toward the alley. She's going to the door, Garrett said, already standing. And I think that's Diane Velasquez, the missing kindergarten teacher. Maya stared at the retreating figure. But you said she disappeared weeks ago. That's her. Same face, same hair, but... Wrong, Maya whispered, understanding now what he meant. Without discussing it, they both moved toward the alley entrance, Maya's camera ready. Something bigger than missing persons and strange doors was happening, and whatever fear Maya felt was overshadowed by the need to know, to understand, to document. As they followed Diane's form deeper into the alley shadows, Maya felt the weight of her camera like a shield. Whatever waited behind that rusted door with its mysterious symbol, she was ready to face it, ready to bring it into the light, one photograph at a time. The alley felt different at night. What had seemed merely uninviting in the rain yesterday now felt actively hostile, the shadows deeper, the occasional pools of light from security fixtures somehow making the darkness between them more absolute. Maya kept her camera raised, the familiar weight steadying her nerves as they followed the woman at a careful distance. Stay back, Garrett whispered. They have sharp senses. The woman, possibly Diane Velasquez, though Maya couldn't be certain from the brief glimpse and newspaper photo, moved with unnatural precision toward the rusted door. Her heels made no sound on the wet pavement, as if she were gliding rather than walking. I need to get closer for better shots, Maya whispered back, already moving forward before Garrett could object. She pressed herself against the brick wall, using the shadows for cover, and raised her camera. Through the viewfinder, she watched. The woman approached the door and placed her palm flat against the strange symbol. The metal surface seemed to ripple, an effect so subtle Maya thought she might have imagined it, before the door swung inward silently. Just before the woman stepped through, she paused and turned her head, looking directly at Maya's hiding spot. Even from 30 feet away, those eyes caught the distant light and reflected it back like twin mirrors. Maya's finger instinctively pressed the shutter button, capturing that eerie gaze. The woman disappeared inside, the door closing behind her, with a soft click that somehow carried in the quiet alley. Garrett appeared at Maya's side, his breathing controlled but audible. Did you get it? All of it, Maya confirmed, quickly reviewing the images on her camera's display. The photos were clear, the woman's approach, her hand on the symbol, the door opening, and that final unsettling stare. But something in the last image made Maya's breath catch. Garrett, look at this! She zoomed in on the woman's face. In the harsh contrast of the camera flash, a subtle distortion was visible around her features, almost like a mask that didn't quite fit properly. Jesus, Garrett muttered. What are we dealing with here? Maya was about to respond when the door opened again. They pressed deeper into the shadows as a man in a white lab coat stepped out, looking up and down the alley before propping the door open with a small wedge. Supply delivery, he called back through the doorway, his voice oddly. Place entrance secured. Maya and Garrett exchanged glances. An opportunity had just presented itself, a way to see what lay beyond that mysterious door. Without speaking, they both understood the risk and the necessity. I'm going in, Maya whispered, tucking her camera into her bag but keeping her phone out to record video. Cover me from here. Too dangerous, Garrett objected, but his eyes told a different story. He wanted to know what was happening as badly as she did. We should call for backup. With what evidence? Strange eyes and a door that opens without a key? Maya shook her head. We need more. The man in the lab coat had moved a few yards away, seemingly waiting for something or someone. They had minutes at most. If I'm not out in 20 minutes, call Detective Chen, Maya said, already moving, and text my sister, tell her to send the photos from my cloud account to my editor. Before Garrett could argue further, Maya slipped from the shadows and moved quickly along the opposite wall of the alley. Her footsteps were silent on the damp pavement. All those years of learning to move quietly while photographing wildlife in national parks finally paying off in an unexpected way. The lab coat man had his back to her, checking his watch with mechanical precision. Maya reached the propped door, hesitated for only a moment, then slipped inside. She found herself in a narrow corridor that looked nothing like what should have existed behind that door. Instead of the back room of a Chinese restaurant, this was a sterile white hallway with recessed lighting and air that smelled faintly of antiseptic. The floor sloped downward at a gentle angle, suggesting that whatever lay ahead was underground. Maya activated the video recording on her phone, keeping it partially concealed in her palm as she moved forward cautiously. The corridor stretched, about 30 yards before opening into what appeared to be a reception area, unoccupied at the moment, thankfully. A sleek desk with a computer terminal sat in front of another door, this one made of some kind of polished metal with no visible handle. On the wall behind the desk hung a large logo, the same symbol from the doorframe but elaborated with additional lines and curves. Beneath it, in simple sans serif letters, Nexus Evolution Initiative. Maya quickly photographed the logo and desk area with her phone, then froze at the sound of approaching footsteps from beyond the inner door. She looked around desperately for a hiding place, finally ducking behind a tall potted plant in the corner, just as the metal door slid open with a soft hiss. Two people emerged, a tall woman in a tailored gray suit and the same man Maya had seen entering the door earlier, still in his hospital scrubs. They moved with the same unsettling synchronization she had observed in others. The director wishes to see the new arrivals processed by midnight, the woman said, her voice lacking any natural inflection. The investors are arriving at 0600. Understood, the man replied. Current subjects are responding well to the neural interface. Assimilation rate is 93%. And the failures? Disposed of according to protocol. Maya's blood ran cold. She wasn't sure what they were discussing, but disposed of suggested something far worse than she had imagined. She adjusted her position slightly to keep recording, accidentally brushing against the plant's leaves. The woman in gray stopped, mid-stride. Biosignature detected, non-registered human presence. Maya's heart pounded as both figures turned toward her hiding spot with perfect mechanical precision. Running was pointless now. Instead, she stood, phone still recording in her hand. Hi, she said, summoning her most confident professional voice. Maya Chen, City Tribune. I'm doing a piece on innovative medical research facilities in the city. Is this Nexus Evolution? Your door was open, so I thought, security breach, the man in scrubs said, not to Maya, but to the woman in gray. Neither of their expressions changed. No anger, no surprise, nothing human at all. The woman reached into her pocket and removed what looked like a small remote control. Neural Security Protocol 9. Before Maya could react, a high-pitched tone emitted from hidden speakers in the ceiling. The sound burrowed into her ears, making it hard to focus. Her limbs felt suddenly heavy, her thoughts fuzzy around the edges. She managed to press the send button on her phone, transmitting the video to Garrett before the device slipped from her numbing fingers. Fetch the scanner, the woman ordered, and the man in scrubs left through the metal door. Maya fought against the disorienting effect of the tone, forcing herself to remain standing even as her vision began to blur. What is this place? What are you doing to people? The woman tilted her head, studying Maya with cold curiosity. You have excellent resistance to the suppression frequency. Noted. She stepped closer, examining Maya as one might examine an interesting specimen. Nexus Evolution Initiative is advancing humanity beyond its biological limitations. Those who enter willingly are given the choice of enhancement. Those who trespass. She paused, her lips curving in what might have been intended as a smile but looked more like a grimace. Those who trespass become test subjects. The metal door opened again, and the man returned with a handheld device that resembled a tablet computer with unusual attachments. As he approached, Maya knew she had seconds to act. Despite the disorienting tone still pulsing through her body, she lunged toward the exit corridor. She made it 3 steps before strong hands gripped her arms. The grip was inhumanly powerful, the fingers pressing with precisely calculated force, enough to restrain but not enough to bruise. The clinical efficiency of it was almost more terrifying than outright violence would have been. Neural profile scan commencing, the man said, holding the device near Maya's head. It emitted a soft blue light that swept across her face. Subject exhibits optimal neural plasticity, he announced after studying the screen. Candidate for Phase 3 testing, the woman nodded. Prepare holding room 4. I will inform the director. As they began to pull Maya toward the inner door, a loud crash echoed from the entrance corridor. The outer door burst open and Garrett charged in, followed by 2 uniformed police officers with weapons drawn. "Police! Everyone freeze!" shouted the taller officer, a stocky woman with her gun trained on Maya's captors. In the moment of confusion, Maya wrenched free from the loosened grip and stumbled toward Garrett. The high-pitched tone was still affecting her coordination, but adrenaline propelled her forward. "They're not human," she gasped as Garrett caught her. "Something about neural interfaces. They're changing people." The woman in gray and the man in scrubs stood perfectly still, their faces blank. Then, with movements too quick to follow, they both pressed something on their wrists. The lights in the reception area flickered, and when they stabilized, the 2 figures had collapsed to the floor. The officers approached cautiously, guns still raised. "What the hell?" the female officer muttered, kneeling to check for pulses. "They're dead. Just like that." "Self-destruct," Garrett said grimly. "They couldn't risk being captured." Maya's head was clearing as the tone had stopped with the lights flickering. She retrieved her phone from where it had fallen and started taking photos of the reception area, the logo, the fallen figures. "You need to see what's through that inner door," she told the officers. "There are people missing from this neighborhood. I think they're being held here." The female officer, her nameplate read Ramirez, spoke into her radio, requesting backup and a medical team. "Detective Chen is on her way," she told Garrett. "Your message got through." As they waited for backup to arrive, Maya reviewed the IOM video she'd captured, trying to make sense of what she'd heard. Neural interfaces, assimilation, disposed failures. Each piece of the puzzle was disturbing on its own. Together they suggested something beyond ordinary crime, something that changed the very nature of what it meant to be human. "I thought we were tracking body snatchers or organ harvesters," Garrett said quietly, looking at the fallen figures, whose faces now appeared oddly deflated, like masks without support. "But this is something else entirely." Maya nodded, her journalist's mind already framing the story even as her human heart recoiled from the implications. "Whatever it is," she said, raising her camera as the metal inner door began to slide open and armed officers prepared to enter. "We're about to find out." The metal door slid open to reveal a scene that made Maya instinctively raise her camera. The flash illuminated a vast underground chamber that stretched far beyond what should have been possible given the buildings above. The space was divided into sections by glass walls, creating a honeycomb of rooms and corridors bathed in cool blue light. "Clear the area," ordered the lead officer, motioning for Maya and Garrett to stay back as the tactical team moved forward, weapons raised. But Maya was already capturing images, her professional instincts overriding her fear. Through her viewfinder, she documented what looked like a cross between a high-tech medical facility and a research laboratory. In one glass-walled section, empty hospital beds stood in neat rows, each equipped with strange helmets connected to ceiling-mounted machines. Another area held what appeared to be surgical theaters, the gleaming instruments arranged with perfect precision. "My God," breathed Garrett beside her. "How long has this been here? Right under our neighborhood?" Detective Gloria Chen arrived minutes later, her sharp eyes taking in the scene with professional efficiency. Unlike the uniformed officers, she wore plain clothes, dark pants, and a simple blazer that somehow managed to look authoritative despite their simplicity. She nodded briefly to Garrett before turning to Maya. "Ms. Chen? I'm Detective Chen." "No. Relation, I'm guessing." Her voice was calm but intense. "I need to see everything you've documented." Maya handed over her phone with the video she'd recorded in the reception area. As the detective watched, her expression hardened. "Neural interfaces? Assimilation?" She looked up at Maya. "And you believe this is connected to the recent disappearances?" "We followed someone who looked exactly like Diane Velasquez, one of the missing persons, into this facility," Maya explained. "But she wasn't right. Her movements were mechanical and her eyes reflected light unnaturally." More officers were streaming into the facility now, securing rooms and documenting evidence. From deeper within the complex came shouts and the crackle of radios. "Detective," called a voice from beyond the inner door. "You need to see this." Chen motioned for Maya and Garrett to stay put, but Maya had no intention of missing whatever lay ahead. As soon as the detective disappeared through the doorway, Maya followed, Garrett close behind her. The corridor beyond opened into the largest chamber yet, a circular room with a domed ceiling at least 30 feet high. The walls were lined with what looked like glass pods, each large enough to hold a person. Most were empty, their doors standing open, but 12 contained still human forms, floating in clear liquid, eyes closed and bubbles rising slowly from masks covering their faces. "Life signs stable in all occupied units," reported a uniformed officer who was examining a control panel. "They appear to be in some kind of suspended animation." Maya moved closer to the nearest pod, camera raised. Inside floated a middle-aged man she recognized from the newspaper clipping, Hank Russo, the missing accountant. Next to him was Diane Velasquez, her face peaceful as if in deep sleep. The other pods contained people of varying ages and appearances, all connected to tubes and monitoring equipment. "Are they alive?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The officer at the control panel nodded. "Vital signs are strong. Brain activity is unusual. Extremely elevated in some areas, almost dormant in others." "They're being copied," came Garrett's voice, tight with controlled anger. He was examining a large screen on the far wall, which displayed what looked like brain scans alongside complex data. "Look at this. It's mapping their neural patterns, storing them like computer files." Detective Chen approached the screen, her face illuminated by its blue glow. "For what purpose?" "Ma'am," called another officer from a doorway on the opposite side of the room. "There's someone else here. Says she's in charge." The officers parted to reveal a striking woman in her 50s, with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. Unlike the blank-faced individuals they'd encountered earlier, her expression was alert and calculating. She wore an elegant charcoal suit and stood with perfect posture, hands clasped in front of her. 2 officers flanked her, weapons ready, but she appeared completely unconcerned by their presence. "I am Dr. Eleanor Voss," she announced, her voice cultured and confident. "Director of the Nexus Evolution Initiative. I assume you have questions." Detective Chen stepped forward. "You're under arrest for kidnapping, false imprisonment, and God knows what else we're going to find in this place." Dr. Voss smiled slightly. "I think you'll find the situation more complex than you imagine, Detective. None of our subjects are here against their will. They volunteered for our program." "Volunteered to be floating in tanks?" Maya couldn't help interrupting, gesturing toward Hank Russo's pod. "His wife reported him missing. He has 2 children wondering where their father went." The director's eyes fixed on Maya with unsettling intensity. "Ah, the journalist. I was informed of your arrival." She tilted her head slightly. "You have exceptional neural architecture. You would have made an excellent candidate." candidate. For what exactly? Garrett demanded. The next stage of human evolution. Dr. Voss spoke as if explaining a simple concept to children. These volunteers are pioneers offering their brains as templates for our neural replication program. Maya felt cold despite the regulated temperature of the room. The people we saw, the ones with the strange movements and eyes, their copies? Synthetic? Vessels with uploaded human consciousness, Dr. Voss corrected. More efficient, more durable versions of the human form, free from disease, aging, and emotional instability. That's not evolution, Garrett said quietly. That's replacement. Dr. Voss shrugged elegantly. Semantics. The future belongs to those who can adapt. We're simply accelerating the process. Detective Chen had heard enough. She nodded to the officers who moved forward to handcuff the director. Dr. Eleanor Voss, you're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Dr. Voss interrupted, still perfectly calm. She glanced at her watch. In approximately 30 seconds, this facility's security protocols will activate. I suggest you evacuate your people immediately. As if on cue, alarms began to sound throughout the complex and red warning lights flashed along the walls. The monitoring equipment connected to the pods began to emit urgent beeping sounds. She's bluffing, an officer said, but Detective Chen was already issuing evacuation orders into her radio. What about them? Maya pointed at the people in the pods, her journalist's detachment finally breaking. We can't just leave them, Dr. Voss smiled. The subjects will be automatically transferred to our secondary facility. They are far too valuable to lose. Garrett grabbed Maya's arm. We need to get out of here, now. 60 seconds to containment. Protocol, announced an automated voice over hidden speakers. All personnel evacuate immediately. The chamber erupted into controlled chaos as officers began retreating toward the exit. Two remained with Dr. Voss attempting to force her toward the door, but she remained oddly immobile, as if weighing far more than her frame suggested. I'm not leaving, she stated simply. My consciousness has already been uploaded. This body is merely a vessel. As the officers struggled with the director, Maya noticed movement in the pods. The sleeping figures were being lowered through previously, hidden openings in the bottom of each tank, disappearing from view. They're moving them, she shouted, rushing to the nearest pod despite Garrett's attempt to hold her back. She pounded on the glass as Hank Russo's unconscious form descended out of sight. We have to stop it. 30 seconds to containment protocol, the automated voice continued. Detective Chen made the difficult call. Everyone out now, that's an order. Maya felt Garrett's strong grip on her arm, pulling her away from the pods. There's nothing we can do for them right now, he insisted. But if we don't get out, there will be no one left to tell their story. The appeal to her role as a witness, as a journalist with a responsibility to document the truth, cut through Maya's panic. She raised her camera one last time, capturing a final image of Dr. Voss standing calmly amid the flashing lights as her subjects disappeared below. The evacuation was a blur of shouted orders and pounding feet as everyone raced back through the complex toward the exit. Maya and Garrett were among the last to emerge into the alley, gasping for fresh air as uniformed officers established a perimeter, pushing gathering onlookers back to a safe distance. They had barely cleared the doorway when a deep rumbling vibration shook the ground beneath their feet. The rusted door slammed shut with surprising force, the symbol on its frame glowing briefly before fading away entirely. Then, nothing. No explosion, no collapse, no dramatic finale. Just sudden, eerie silence. Containment protocol complete, Maya whispered, remembering the automated announcement. Detective Chen was already organizing teams, calling for specialized equipment to breach the door again. But when the first responders approached with heavy tools, they found only solid brick wall where the door had been. It was as if the entrance to the facility had never existed. This isn't possible, one of the officers muttered, running his hands over the seamless brickwork. But Maya knew what she had seen, what she had documented with her camera. The photos and video remained, irrefutable evidence that something extraordinary had occurred. She checked her camera, relieved to find the images intact. "What happens now?" she asked Detective Chen, who was staring at the transformed wall with barely contained frustration. "Now?" The detective turned to Maya, her expression grim but determined. "Now we find out how deep this rabbit hole goes. Those people are still out there somewhere, and so are their copies." Garrett nodded, his weathered face showing a mix of vindication and concern. "They'll have other facilities, other doors. And we're going to find every last one of them," Chen promised. As the police established a command center and called in additional resources, Maya stepped away to examine her photos, each image confirming that the night's events had been real and not some collective hallucination. The pods, the laboratory, Dr. Voss with her unsettling calm, all captured in high resolution. Garrett joined her, looking over her shoulder at the digital evidence. "You know what this means," he said quietly. "Nothing is going to be the same after tonight." Maya nodded, already composing the story in her mind, the most important she would ever tell. "People need to know," she said simply. What had begun with a whispered warning in a dark alley had uncovered something that would change her understanding of humanity itself. As Maya looked back at the brick wall that had swallowed 12 lives, she made a silent promise to the people in those pods. Their story would be told, no matter where the truth might lead. Maya sat in her editor's office, watching Tom's face as he scrolled through her photos for the third time. Outside the glass walls, the newspaper's office buzzed with unusual energy, phones ringing nonstop, reporters huddled in intense conversations, the kind of electricity that only came with a truly massive story breaking. "And the police have verified all of this?" Tom asked, looking up from his computer. Deep lines creased his forehead, his usual skepticism battling with the undeniable evidence before him. "Detective Chen has confirmed everything I've written," Maya said. "They've already identified 3 of the synthetic vessels working in positions of influence throughout the city: a judge's clerk, a hospital administrator, and an aide to the deputy mayor." Tom let out a low whistle. "And they're sure these aren't just, I don't know, twins? Lookalikes?" "The DNA matches perfectly to the missing persons," Maya explained. "But brain scans show unusual patterns consistent with the technology we found in the facility. And then there's the eyes." She pulled up a specific photo on her phone, a close-up of one of the synthetic people caught in a camera flash, their pupils reflecting light in that distinctive, unnatural way. Normal human eyes don't do this. For 3 days since the raid on the Nexus facility, Maya had barely slept, working alongside Detective Chen's task force to piece together the full story. The vanished door in the alley remained a brick wall, despite ground-penetrating radar that showed hollow spaces beyond. Meanwhile, police departments in 6 other cities had reported similar missing persons cases, all with the same pattern: ordinary people disappearing, then being spotted days, later behaving strangely. Tom sighed heavily, the weight of journalistic responsibility visible in his posture. "This is bigger than local news, Maya. This is national, international probably." "I know." Maya's voice was quiet but firm. "That's why we need to run it. People deserve to know what's happening." After another moment of consideration, Tom nodded. "Front page, tomorrow morning. I'll call Angela to design the layout. This needs visual impact." He paused, fixing Maya with a serious look. "Are you ready for what comes next? This story will change your life. Once it breaks, you'll be the journalist who uncovered whatever this is. Human copies, mind uploading. It sounds like science fiction. It's not fiction. I saw it with my own eyes." Maya thought about the people in those pods: Hank Russo, Diane Velasquez, and the others, still missing, still being used as templates for something that threatened to fundamentally change what it meant to be human. Their families deserve answers. As Maya left Tom's office, her phone buzzed with a text from Garrett. "Found something. Meet at Chen's office, 3 p.m. The police station hummed with unusual activity, extra officers brought in from other precincts to handle the growing investigation. Detective Chen had commandeered a conference room, its walls now covered with photos, maps, and connection diagrams. When Maya arrived, Garrett was already there, standing beside a large computer monitor with Chen and two tech specialists. We tracked the power usage, Garrett explained without preamble as Maya joined them. A facility that size would need massive electricity, even with the most efficient systems. One of the techs, a young woman with bright orange-framed glasses, pointed to a complex graph on the screen. We analyzed city power grid data for the past 6 months. There's a consistent power draw to these locations, all significantly higher than what the registered businesses at those addresses should be. The screen switched to a map of the city with 7 locations marked in red. Maya recognized one immediately. "That's the main downtown subway station," she said, pointing. Chen nodded grimly. "Perfect cover. Constant noise, vibrations that would mask construction, thousands of people passing through daily, including many who wouldn't be missed if they disappeared." "We're coordinating simultaneous raids on all locations," Chen continued. "SWAT teams, medical personnel, tech experts. Whatever we find will be ready." She turned to Maya. "Your story runs tomorrow?" "Front page." "Good. The public needs to be aware." Chen's phone buzzed and she checked it with a frown. "One more thing you should see?" She led them to a smaller office where a TV was playing a live news broadcast. On screen, a familiar face was giving a press conference. Dr. Eleanor Voss, looking perfectly poised despite the events of 3 nights ago. "Allegations against Nexus Evolution are not only false but dangerous," she was saying, her voice measured and reasonable. "Our medical research facility focuses on neural mapping to help patients with brain injuries and degenerative diseases. These rumors of synthetic people are nothing but sensationalism designed to create fear of scientific advancement." "That's impossible," Garrett muttered. "We saw her at the facility. She admitted everything." "And yet there she is," Chen said quietly. "Either that's not the same Dr. Voss we encountered, or she's one of them," Maya finished. "A synthetic vessel with the real Voss's consciousness." The press conference continued, with Voss fielding questions with perfect composure. When asked directly about the police raid, she expressed confusion about why authorities had targeted a philanthropic medical research organization and suggested that lurid rumors had led to unfortunate misunderstandings. She's getting ahead of the story, Maya realized, trying to make us sound like conspiracy theorists before the evidence goes public. Chen's phone rang, and her expression darkened as she listened to the caller. "They did what?" She finally said. "Under whose authority?" After another moment, she hung up and turned to the others. "That was my captain. Federal agents just seized all our evidence from the raid. National security concerns, they said." Her jaw tightened. Someone very powerful doesn't want this story getting out. Maya felt a chill run through her. "They can't stop the newspaper. We're running it tomorrow." "Are you sure?" Chen asked, her eyes intense. "These people, whoever or whatever they really are, they've clearly infiltrated positions of power. They could make life very difficult for you, for the paper, for everyone involved." Maya thought about it for only a moment before nodding firmly. "I became a journalist to tell the truth, especially when powerful people don't want it told." She patted her bag. "Besides, I have backups of everything. Multiple copies, multiple locations." Garrett smiled for the first time that day. "Smart woman." The story broke the next morning with the headline, "Nexus Evolution, the Truth Behind." The disappearances. Maya's byline sat prominently beneath it, her carefully documented photos and first-hand account laid out across 2 full pages. By noon, it had been picked up by national news outlets. By evening, international media was covering it. Dr. Voss held another press conference, calling the story dangerous fiction and threatening legal action against the newspaper. But her perfect composure slipped when a reporter asked directly about the reflective quality of her eyes. The camera caught it, that same unnatural gleam when the flash went off, and the footage went viral within hours. 3 days after the story broke, Maya sat in a coffee shop across from Garrett, watching people on the street outside, Everyone was looking at each other differently now, with subtle glances at eyes, movements, behaviors. "You've changed the world," Garrett said quietly, stirring his coffee. "For better or worse." "We've changed it," Maya corrected him. "If you hadn't warned me that night in the alley." Garrett nodded, his weathered face solemn. "I keep thinking about those people in the pods. Still out there somewhere. We'll find them," Maya promised. "The raids are happening tonight, right?" 7 locations simultaneously. Chen says they've got better preparation this time. Tech specialists ready to counter any self-destruct systems. Medical team standing by for the originals. Maya's phone buzzed with a news alert. She opened it to find that a senator had just called for a congressional investigation into Nexus evolution, citing disturbing evidence of unauthorized human experimentation. More importantly, he had called for an examination of recent federal decisions, particularly those made by officials who had been acting out of character. "It's starting," she said, showing Garrett the alert. "People in power are questioning each other now." As they left the coffee shop, Maya noticed a woman across the street watching them intently. For a moment, their eyes met, and Maya felt a jolt of recognition. Something in the woman's face reminded her of Dr. Voss, though it wasn't her. The woman nodded once, almost respectfully, before turning and walking away. "Did you see that?" Maya asked Garrett, but he had been looking the other way. That night, Maya sat at her desk, preparing notes for her next article, a deeper dive into the technology behind the neural interfaces. Her phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Not all of us agree with Nexus methods. Some of us want coexistence, not replacement. The world you've created with your story allows for that possibility. Thank you." Maya stared at the message for a long time, wondering who had sent it and what it meant. The line between human and something else had been blurred in ways she was still struggling to understand. What defined humanity? Was it the biological body or something less tangible? As she looked out her window at the city lights, Maya thought about how a single decision, taking a shortcut down a dark alley on a rainy night, had set in motion events that would reshape humanity's future. The story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. Whatever came next, she would be there to document it, to bear witness to a world changing in ways no one could have imagined. And it had all started with a stranger's whispered warning. "Keep walking."